Hey yo, what's
Hey
up?
guys, welcome to Now That's Debatable.
Uh,
This is your host, Fantastic Facade, and I am joined always with my co-host, Tribulated Humanist. We are live and on the air. Today we have a special guest, Jarek, and of course, like always, we have chat up on the screen. So please say hello, ask questions, and we will try to get to those as we progress. Uh, Welcome. How's everybody doing tonight?
I'm
Chiller,
doing
man.
wonderful.
Happy
Yeah,
Black
we
History
streamed two
Month.
nights in a row. This is
2 night.
unusual because we typically do one per week. And that's
Happy
this is the first time we've ever did two in a week. So,
Happy Black History Month.
oh yeah, you too.
Hope you're celebrating it well.
Yeah, man. February 1st. That's
Nice.
right.
Thank
so,
you for having me.
yeah, man, appreciate you coming on. So you're a member of the Universal Life Church,
Yes.
and as am I. We were talking before we went live. Like I'm an ordained minister under Universal Life Church, but like I don't know a lot about it. I got my ordination mainly to officiate a wedding for a friend. Wedding never even happened; they broke up, but I still kept it. But yeah, I like to know more about the Universal Life Church. Like, what is it? What are their beliefs? And why you're still in it?
Well, I believe generally, like I went through a path of deconstruction, and it left me hanging on to universal beliefs that Jesus died for everybody. Um, Now, I personally believe that he died, and then period. That is what I believe. I personally question the Bible afterwards, like everything that came afterwards.
So after, so
So,
like, not necessarily the resurrection. You'll grant the death, but not the resurrection.
I believe resurrection is possible.
Okay, but do you believe that it happened? I think
Yeah,
Facade and I both, as atheists, will grant that Jesus died. Like, if
yeah.
he lived at all, he certainly died because that's what people do. But would you say that he resurrected? There's a bodily resurrection. Would you say that?
As of right now, yeah, I would hang on to that belief. There's there's no really proof to know if he did or didn't, but to say he didn't, it's hard to say he didn't. But for as far as the Bible, I know it's been translated hundreds of times and the different languages, and like you could look back in the Dead Sea Scrolls, the English version. I have the Old Testament version, and there's some words in there and even some sentences that ain't the same in the versions we have now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like I was telling you earlier, um, and this is what started my deconstruction. Probably like 2012, 2013, I started seeing holes like in Christianity because I actually was raised a Christian. I never really took it serious. In my early 20s, I kind of went to the bars, partied, clubs, and age 25, I decided to kind of try God to see if this would work for my life, and that was 2008. And then probably 3, 4 years in, I started noticing that, well, number one, that the faith healing scheme, I really was very into kind of investigating and using common sense. And when a lot of money was involved, and people were saying people were healed, and then yet um, they're not in the hospitals healing people. And then when he even looked into that, like James Randi, his name is, he's a
Yeah,
atheist,
yeah, yeah. I'm not sure if he's an atheist. Probably.
agnostic,
He's
maybe.
He
definitely an
certainly thinks like
atheist.
a skeptic.
Yeah,
But would you say Facade? He's
Yes,
atheist.
he's definitely an atheist. Yeah, the amazing
Okay.
James Randi. He's a former magician turned into one of the
Yeah, no,
most
he was
widely
debunking
known
like
debunking skeptic
magic and
ever.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you not even believe that can happen? Like, so do you think not believe that God is capable of miracles? Do like miracles happen at all? Or
um at this point in my life, no, I don't believe miracles could happen. um Probably not.
So can I ask like
I
a
think,
really like, and it's not
yeah.
to like, you know, it's not to take anything away.
Yeah.
Why bother with the Jesus story at all if the resurrection's not real and the miracles can't happen? Like,
I
all
think
you're
he
left with
will
is
grant the resurrection. He does believe in the resurrection, right?
Yes, I do. Yes, I believe it's resurrection is possible. I'm just holding on to that
but
right now.
miracles aren't.
Um,
I mean, I would call a resurrection a miracle.
Yeah, I would too. I knew you were going to head into that, but yeah, that would be a miracle.
Would you just say that maybe God is capable of miracles, but not necessarily his followers?
That's interesting.
So,
Yeah.
there's one
Yeah.
belief. What's it called? Sensationalism, I think it is. It's a Christian doctrine, and so is that so Jesus was able to perform miracles, and he was able to impart those gifts onto his disciples, but they weren't able to impart them on anyone else. So after the apostles died, that was pretty much the end of miracles. Would you say you're a sensationalist?
Yeah, I believe the miracles would have stopped after the apostles died.
Okay, interesting. What do you do with like the Book of Revelation? Are you pre-mill or are you amill, post-mill?
Well, at this point, I mean, like I said, I deconstructed a lot of my beliefs.
Gotcha. Okay, so you don't even necessarily believe like an end time is going to happen, like Jesus is going to come back or anything like that?
No, not right now. I'm unsure. To
Gotcha.
be honest. Like I think a lot of us could almost say.
To go back to Fasad's question? What is holding you on? It sounds like you're like on a ledge, and it's like it's like your fingertips and just kind of hanging on. Like, why not just drop it all together?
Yeah, when you asked me the other day, if I wanted to come on here, I got a little bit nervous, right? I asked a coworker, he wants me to come on there, and I'm really hang on with my fingertips. I don't know what to say, so I'm just going to be honest. First, my personal story and my heart of hearts. I like history. Regardless, I love history. I always did. Any kind of history. I think history is amazing. You can learn about history. Going back in history, watching human behaviors, you can predict sometimes future behaviors, right? And things that's done in the past. So, number one, I love history. Number two, I hope there's something more after death. I hope there's like maybe the Bible is wrong, maybe all this is wrong, but there's some kind of afterlife.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to think that as well. Like,
yeah.
I kind of hope that. Like, I lost my mother. I was very close to her, and so if we just cease to be, then I have to deal with the reality that I'll never see her again. So, like, I would love that. But what I mean is, what rationale do we have to hold that, other than just like a hope? Then, like, I'm not asking like a reason as in there's reason to believe it as in like I just want this to happen. I'm talking about like epistemically, what's a rational justification to think that there is an afterlife or there's a God in it or anything like that?
Now, would that not be like, are you hanging on to the resurrection and Jesus dying, or there's a God?
All of it, all of it.
As far as the belief in Jesus and him dying and rising from the dead, that's just faith. It's really not evidence based. No longer, I do not think has any evidence to it. I used to think.
Do you think it's wise to believe things without evidence?
Absolutely, no, not anymore. No, I never really did. But as far as Christianity, before I deconstructed, you're told you're going to go to hell.
Yeah.
So you hang on. Yeah.
Okay, so like you say like so it's kind of like a fear, like something that was kind of like inculcated in your psychology through growing up, because this was probably like preached in to you, right? Because like so me and Fasad, we have very similar backgrounds. Also, we've known each other since we were 5. We went to the same school, college, and all that kind of stuff. And so we sat in the same sermon for years, hearing hell preached on to us. And so, I mean, that's definitely a very strong, it's like a very strong psychological hold. Like fear, I mean, if you're talking about like something that could, you know, cause you to act, like a reason to do something, like, hope is one thing, love is one thing, fear, oh, that is very persuasive, right? And so, and especially when you're talking about that fear is tied to something that doesn't end. We're not even talking about death. We're just talking about just eternal torment. So, like, would you say like that's like the main reason you're holding on to Christianity?
Not right now. I did
Okay.
mostly when I started seeing like holes and different, which I'm not going to get into another day somewhere else. I'll get into my deconstruction story, but
We have a
now,
comment.
yeah,
Is Caleb True? He asked, "Is Universal Life Church equating to universalism?"
I believe so. Yeah.
And yeah, it sounds like it because I think right before the show started, like you believe everybody goes to heaven.
Yeah.
Period. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. I guess that answers the question. That's odd. Wait a minute. That seems to really contradict scripture. You don't think?
Depending on the twist, actually, I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not. Maybe you're not, but this might be educational. I just learned this probably back in August. I actually interviewed a former AAA New York Yankee back in August on my podcast. He's a university just like me. He told me buy a book because at that point I was actually lost. I was so lost when I deconstructing, and I my wife's like, I think you're gonna be an atheist in a couple of months, and she doesn't. She just believes in a God and Jesus, and she doesn't trust the Bible. But that's it. She doesn't even get into things. But I'm like, I don't think so. So long story short is so I learned some things, and actually universes back between the 200 and 500 AD, the idea of hell got created. So there was, if you even go back to the Old Testament, there was no hell. And then if you learn, like, if you really want to dig into like evidence we do know and things we do see, let's say in scripture, again, I'm not saying I trust scripture. It's funny how that works, but I've heard there is historical writings and people that did the research I trust.
What would you say? Sorry to interrupt, but what would you say about I think his name was not Abraham. What was that story about the guy? Jesus told a story about this man, the rich man, and Lazarus. I think it was right. And Lazarus is in Abraham's bosom, and there's just this huge boundary dividing him from Abraham. And Abraham is, I'm not sure, not Abraham, but the rich man, he's in hell. Well, it seems like it. I don't know if the text actually uses the word hell, but he's burning, right, and asking for water. Like, what do you think about that story? Because surely he's not in heaven.
What I think is, I think they're like in the same place. I've heard, going, myself, I've learned that they're in the same place. But far as that, this gets into deep because again, a lot of people don't really believe in a literal hell. I think universes, and I do not believe in a literal hell. It's actually in Gehenna. There was a fire pit back then when Jesus was around, right, walking, and it was called Gehenna, a fire pit that burnt and burnt and burnt. They sacrificed babies. They threw garbage, and many scholars and believe that that's what Jesus was referring to. So. Yeah,
really?
I got.
Any consolation, the book is found. It's in Luke chapter 16. The word Hades is used, which is the Greek, which is the name for the god of the underworld, the Greek god of the underworld. But it literally means the unseen one. So when he uses hell in that chart, or when he uses Hades in that verse, he's talking about an unseen place. A lot of people assume he's talking about Sheol, which is the Hebrew word for the abode of the dead.
What do you think about um like in Revelation when Jesus is casting hell and death into the lake of fire? You think all of that is figuratively, like speaking?
Yeah, yeah. See, my belief is kind of strange because some of my beliefs come from, again, I guess this book. To be honest, there's books I read and scholars and things, and it was attractive because, like many people believe, the early church. I can't give the exact date. Right after Christ, did what he did, maybe first 150 years, 200 years, 300 years. They actually didn't believe in a hell. They believed in and they believed in universal salvation. It's been said. So that's kind of like maybe why I'm hanging on to this more.
But shouldn't you be
Yeah.
more concerned about what the scriptures actually say rather than any particular like religious group?
That's tough. But for me personally,
Mhm.
I mean, it's strange how I use the Bible. We do use it, right?
Yeah, because the
But,
Bible
yeah.
comes straight from God, so this is coming straight from the source. It seems to me that would be far more trustworthy than any select group of Christians or denomination or whatever.
Again, well, this brings back a point here is I mentioned earlier, I heard about a Bible from Germany in the 1800s, and actually even have the screenshots, German Bible, and where it's supposed to say homosexuals, it says boy molesters won't inherit heaven, and the big is it says boy, or is a man should not lie with boy. So words could get changed around. We know that through translations.
Do you think that did that happen with these passages when Christ is referring to hell, or just the Bible in general when it's referring to hell?
I don't have a direct answer, but I think anything was possible if things could be switched around, words added, and we don't have the original manuscripts. So when we continuously, I guess, use the Bible, I struggle with that right now. I will use it, but
do you think Satan goes to heaven? Because Satan is cast into the lake of fire as well. So he's thrown into the bottomless pit for 1,000 years, and he gets out, it's loose for a little season, then he's thrown into the lake of fire.
That's interesting. I never thought of that, but it's been said that some universes, they believe either universes or whatever, I heard that they believe Satan is actually in heaven with God still. There's something with Job. There's him and God was having a little conversation. Again, going back to that.
Yeah, but I think that was a little different. Like, I don't think so. It wasn't like God. Well, the way I look at it, I mean, the text doesn't really say, but the way I look at it with Job is God isn't like welcoming Satan back home. Like, it was kind of like, remember when God was getting ready to kill Ahab? And he was like, hey, I want to kill Ahab. Who's going to do it for me? Right. And then this evil spirit shows up to God and says, hey, I'll do it for you. I'm going to be a deceiving spirit in the mouth of his prophets. I'll tell him he'll go to battle and he'll be victorious, and he's not. He's going to die. And God's like, go do that. Right. But like, I didn't see that evil spirit. I didn't see that as God welcoming him heart of heaven. Like, he was just like, I guess, I don't know. I never thought about this, but I wouldn't consider, just because God is having a conversation with Satan, prior to the thing that happens with Job, I wouldn't say that that's like Satan's final resting place. You understand what I'm saying about that? So, I mean, do you think, I guess, what would you say? Like, if you think Satan goes to heaven, but is there any passage in scripture that you would refer to?
No.
Well, I believe that, man.
Yeah. Here's the question. Who created evil? I just learned that today.
Well, so this is an interesting topic. So because I was arguing with somebody on Facebook, as I like normally do, about who created evil. So as a Christian, my position was that evil wasn't something that needed to be created. It was just the absence of good. But as now that I think about it, if we're gonna say that God is the first cause of everything, and everything that ever happened came from God, then I don't know how evil wouldn't be included in that if God is the first cause. So I would argue that if anything that ever happens has to be from the first cause. And if there's a God, then that's where it would have to originate.
Yeah, and it's interesting, kind of giggling here. Isaiah 48,
45,
Isaiah
45,
45:7.
Yeah,
It
I
says,
figured you were going there.
I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I
I
do,
think
the Lord, do all these things.
so.
God created evil.
Have you looked in the Hebrew there? I forget the
No.
Hebrew word for it, but that word
Yeah.
evil is closer to something.
It's
It's closer to calamity, right? So like earthquakes, tornadoes, stuff like that. And so, I mean, were you reading the King James?
Yeah, that was the King James.
Probably tell us the King James. Like the King James, they used evil to refer to a bunch of different things that we wouldn't use today. Like a hurricane, like we wouldn't say that's evil, right? But like we may say it's destructive, calamity is bad, but we wouldn't necessarily use the word evil. That's what I think they were referring to. But so let's just grant that God was creating evil there. Are you saying, so does that somehow imply that God's going to allow evil into heaven?
You're making me think.
Yeah. It really wouldn't be heaven anymore, would it?
No.
That'd be
But
odd.
then how did
people getting robbed and murdered and raped and stuff in heaven?
So if there's no sin in heaven, how did pride get in heaven?
I have no idea. I mean, this is like I'm an atheist, man. So like,
I know you are, but I'm coming from like,
but
you're throwing things at me. I'm just teaching things I've learned.
Let me put on my Christian hat. What I would have said is that evil is not a thing. It's just the absence of a thing. And so by creating a thing, a good thing, you also create the possibility of the absence of that, which would be the evil. Just like by creating light, you create the possibility of darkness. So by God doing good, there's necessarily a possibility of evil. That's why I would have said.
Yeah,
also you can get a little more reform. That God can do what he wants, but that doesn't make him evil. It's we're the clay, he's the potter. So he could just created Satan with pride in his heart. That wouldn't necessarily make him bad. So there's a few ways you could answer that.
Yeah, it's tough pill to swallow, all these things I've learned and seen, and actually probably learned more about scripture when I deconstructed. I knew things already, and yeah, I'm still hanging on. Maybe it's just the hope, and plus we're in America, so to be honest.
But it's not necessarily the scriptures.
No, it's not the scriptures. No, it's not. It's not the scriptures. I mean, it was just interesting that things outside of the scriptures that people said the early church believed, and that kind of keeping me hang on.
Why? So, like, how about the stories about Jesus and Paul and Peter? Like, they've been going around preaching. Like, do you believe those stories?
Not to come.
Like, let's say Paul went around, Europe. He went around Europe preaching the gospel. He went around Europe and Asia preaching the gospel. Do you believe Paul did those things?
Personally, I just question a lot of stuff in the Bible. It's the first time me coming out saying that, actually.
Okay.
I
guess because my question is
main roaded. You have supposedly, what's his name? Constantine, you have the Catholic Church, you have all these power figures and looking to control and all that. And I just see this Bible just coming together just for stuff like that. Why not use religion to bring people together? Now, regardless if Jesus died and rose from the dead or not, he could have died and rose from the dead and said, "This is it." He didn't expect the Bible to be written. He didn't expect a religion. Let's pretend, right?
Yeah.
And man went ahead and did what they did. Like God, let's say God, something does exist. We just don't know it. He could still exist and just have nothing to do with humankind somewhere. Maybe another planet. We don't know. Like I'm just saying, the evidence is from that we don't know. So, but far as everything we do see and everything we examine, far as scripture and religions, it doesn't hold up a lot of it.
I mean, I agree. It's just that my thing is like if I was a universalist, I would question why anybody would go around and preach. Like for what? That's why I was asking you about.
I want to go around and preach anymore.
Well, no, not you, but I'm talking about like even the disciples. Like, what's the purpose?
Based on like my opinion, like I'm gonna give my opinion after my research, my things I've read and conclusions. I personally believe the Bible was put together by man again, and may not had much to do with Jesus, and may had more to do with man. And then again, we don't have the original manuscripts. We don't know what the original words said or how things were worded. All you gotta do is just take, like you said, Hebrew words, certain words, and misinterpret or not understand it or translate it. And we only understand things what we see here and within our culture. So there's times people are translating the Bible, judging by and interpreting by what they understand at that time. So anything could have happened with scriptures or added, and I think it's a big mess. So me, I don't really trust the Bible too much. So as far as Paul preaching, I don't know what they did.
So if you don't so, go ahead.
Forgive me if you've said so, but like, can I get a rundown of like some of your basic beliefs and like why you believe them? Like, do you believe in generically a deity? You don't even have to call it God. You don't have to say it has attributes. Like, do you believe in a deity? Do you think that exists affirmatively?
I think, yeah, some kind of God figure could exist. Just have nothing to do with
whether it could exist.
Could.
I'm not asking whether it could. I'm asking, do you believe that a God exists? I'm not asking you to name it. I'm not asking you to give it attributes. I'm asking in general, do you believe a deity of some sort exists?
You guys are asking tough questions.
This is an easy one, bro. Just wait 30 more seconds. You answer that question, I got about 4 more for you.
It's been kind of disappointing, this deconstruction process, to be honest. After you defended the Bible for almost like 10 years that it was reliable, and then you come to a point that it's really not that reliable and trustworthy.
Let me play Angel's Advocate then. Let's say that the Bible is true for a second, or let's say that the Bible is somewhat reliable, right? So it seems to me that you have some trouble with the issue of like its compilation and or translation issues, right? Why wouldn't you take the approach of someone who's not an inerrantist, maybe, or even an infallibilist, but maybe just someone who assumes the scripture is good for teaching and that the main story of the gospel is true, right? It doesn't necessarily have everything right. It doesn't have every T crossed, every I dotted. But why not take the stance of like, okay, sure, the Bible's probably got some wrong things in it, but the main line of the gospel, right? Jesus dying for people's sins is the meat and potatoes of the Bible, right? I think any Christian, any non-Christian that's read the Bible or anyone that knows about the Bible would agree that Jesus is the point of Christianity, right? So why not take that as a substantive belief? Like, I get there's been hundreds of translations and mistranslations, and you said it's been written by man. Unfortunately, unless God writes something himself, which that would undoubtedly prove that God is real and that he wrote something, right? Assuming that we could determine he's a god of some sort. But if God wrote something himself, it would seem that it would be especially if he's an all-knowing God, he would be wise enough to write whatever is convincing to me to let me know he's a God. However, everything has been written by man, including history books and like exegesis of scripture and historical timelines and events that have happened. Everything's been written by man. So it could all be corrupted as much as the Bible, if not more, right? So my question in short, going back to the God thing, is just like, what is it that you believe? Because if you're going to sit here and say, well, this could happen and this could, I'm like, that's great. I don't deny that any of these things necessarily couldn't happen. I just don't have good evidence to believe things unless, I have, like, if I don't have good evidence for them, I'm not going to believe them. Like, I don't believe in the flying spaghetti monster any more than I believe in Yahweh, any more than I believe in unicorns. So I'm not asking, is it possible unicorns exist somewhere on some other planet, some other galaxy far, far away? Sure, I'll grant you that's possible. What I'm asking is, what is it that you actually believe? And why do you believe it?
What I actually believe is I believe in God. I believe in a God, but we don't know anything about him. That's what I hold on to.
But he exists, though, right?
Define that for me.
Yes, I know he exists, but I haven't died yet. But I have done research on near-death experiences, so that's what it's interesting. But as far as Jesus,
but near-death isn't dead.
Yeah. Also,
right?
I don't know how much research you've done on them, but if you've noticed anything about patterns in near-death experiences, you happen to notice that people that have particular visions and or ideas of things they think they see when they're having a near-death experience, it typically coincides very much so with a deity or person in their religion. Like, most of the time you hear Christians talking about seeing a bright light and then a man clouded in, or like clothed in white. But that's not true for other cultures, actually. If you look at near-death experiences that take place in India, most people see a glowing blue figure. If you look at near-death experiences in Japan, most people see a green light. In China, they typically see, like, their ancestors, right? And this is kind of true across the board. When you look at near-death experiences, it's very culture-based for their religion. And if you grow up in a Christian environment, chances are when you have a near-death experience, if you haven't one, not asking or hoping for that for anyone, but if you do, chances are you're going to put together things that your, subconscious and your mind has grown up on for the last however long you've been alive. So I don't really hold those as good evidence either. However, you said you do believe in a God of some sort. So can you define the God at least? Like, do you think it's a being? Do you think it's an actual physical manifestation of something? Do you think it exists within our universe, outside of our universe? Like, what can you tell me about this God that you believe in?
I believe it exists outside of a universe. I don't know where or what, but I believe there is something out there. But I do not think it has much. Like, he doesn't do much, interfere with things on the earth. We're just left to ourselves.
Do you think this God created the universe?
Yes, it's possible. Don't know how.
Well, I'm not asking is it possible that God created. I'm asking, do you believe that a God created the universe?
Right now?
Yeah, I mean, like, that's
everything's possible for me right now.
No, but not asking about what's possible. Like, for instance, like, it's possible for me to have $1 million in my bank account, but I don't believe that. So he's asking you, what do you believe right now? Not about what could have been, but what is.
Well, I have no evidence. I have no evidence of a God created the universe because.
Do you have evidence of a God at all?
Yeah, I have no evidence of a God at all.
But you said
why believe it?
Yeah, so that's my whole crux of the argument is why do you believe it? Like, why do you believe in the flying spaghetti monster?
Why believe it? Because it's possible.
Seems strange to have.
I don't know how it would be not believing in a God. and not
So
believing in.
it seems to me like we're kind of falling in the I don't have a better explanation to some things.
I don't have a
so
better
therefore
explanation.
God of the gaps,
I,
right?
But you know, you don't need an explanation.
Yeah.
Like if you don't know, you can just say you don't know. Like for instance, like
Yeah.
we don't know what the cause of the universe was, right?
Yeah.
We know 13.8 billion years ago something happened. Why? We have no idea. But we don't have to make up something. Like, we can just say we don't know. Like you're not under any sort of obligation to form a conclusion, especially in the absence of any evidence.
Yeah.
You definitely don't have to. I would say the most rational thing to do if there's no evidence was just to be like, I don't know.
Abstain.
You
know? Yeah, I mean that's the best option. Abstaining from making a statement one way or the other is the best option in a situation where you don't have sufficient evidence to come to a conclusion.
I have no evidence to even hold on to Jesus' belief, to be honest. Me personally.
What should you do with things you have no reason to believe?
Well, we live in America, so
I mean,
I know you have the freedom to do what you want, but if you care about being, about being reasonable, you care about being rational, right?
I like the story. I mean, I think community, like the Christian community of gathering together, I do like that. I do like being in a church too. I started going to a Catholic church. I don't believe anything they do. I maybe went 3 times. It's because I like the community. Like I think there's power in community.
Yeah,
power
like reading books.
around people.
I see you got a bunch of sports stuff in the background. You got any like local bar clubs that do sport trivia nights and stuff? Because I bet you that's way more up your alley in a community than a church.
Yeah, definitely. Sitting there.
I see like a bunch of posters and sports and stuff going on in the background, right? Like I bet you like going to like a sports club would be like way more interesting for you, wouldn't it?
Well, I run a Soapage softball team. Like we play like almost 4 months. I'm a kind of coach.
Like, and don't you like the community that provides as well?
Yeah.
So I mean, like my question is like, why go to something you don't believe in to experience a different kind of community about things you don't believe? Like it would be like me turning up to like go to like the Scientology church, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, this is just some crazy stuff. I mean, just because there's people here doesn't mean I'm even gonna get along or agree with them.
Yeah. You guys have good points. You're pretty good at doing what you're doing. You know.
And this sounds really bad, and it sounds like I'm just like pushing for you to just like drop everything. I'm not. My goal and everyone who I've ever talked to is just to make you examine your own thoughts and beliefs, right? I don't necessarily try to sway you one way or the other. However, I say if you hold on to an irrational opinion or you have a belief in something and you don't have good reason to hold it, I would recommend you abandon it, just like I do with any other belief. Now, that stands just as much for Jesus as it does for Flying Spaghetti Monster. Like, if I knew somebody that believed it and they said, I don't have a good reason to believe it, I would tell them to abandon it. The same way I would tell any Christian that has no reason to believe in Jesus, right? It's not against Christianity. I used to be one. I have family members that still are. I would never sit down and argue with them and try to say, like, you're so wrong and stupid for believing this. You're just an idiot. That would never happen. Well, what would happen is if they say, hey, I have questions, I would sit here and answer the questions. And I would ask them questions about their belief, just like I'm doing with you, right? I would ask you what you believe and why do you believe it? Because if you can't trust the Bible, it doesn't seem like we have a good reason to hold the Bible story. If you want to take the Bible and you want to believe the story in the Bible, then you're going to have to take it with the things that you consider flaws. Other people that have more faith or more ignorance or a combination of both or just a stronger will say there's no flaws in the Bible. Now, those people have a very interesting perspective, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that like we can't have a conversation. It just means that like when you're set in your ways, not much I can do. However, it seems to me from the last 30 so minutes of listening to you talk, you're just like, oh, I believe in a God, but I don't have a good reason why. It's kind of like me saying like I believe in Bigfoot in my closet. Like, well, there's no reason. I can see my closet from here. I know there's no Bigfoot in it. Like, why would I hold on to that belief knowing that's not there? If all you have is historical evidence or a community, I recommend finding more community because it seems that's
Mhm.
what you're searching for. If you're searching for an afterlife, unfortunately, it doesn't happen until after this one's over,
Yeah,
right? And I can't promise you that it'll happen then.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm pretty much evidence based. That's why when I came on here, I was like, oh, I'm unsure.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I
yeah,
think the best course of action is to really sit down, examine your beliefs, say this is
yeah,
what I believe, and then write down a good, compelling reason why. If you can't do
yeah,
that, look for a compelling reason why. If you can't find one, abandon that belief. Whether it's
yeah.
jeans are the best pants to wear, or I have a God that created the universe.
Yeah, it's I pretty much like debunked a lot of the crazy stuff. Like I have a twin sister. She said I'm demon possessed.
Mm.
Now I'm demon possessed.
Yeah,
So
yeah. You notice that happens a lot with like hyper religious people.
they haven't seen the demons, but
Yeah, no, they haven't seen the demons, and like because they can't understand why you would give up something like Christianity, it's got to be
yeah,
the devil at work.
yeah.
By
And
the way, it's
God,
those same
and
people
she
that
hears
burn
God's
people at
voice
the
too.
stake for
She
being
said she
witches. Yeah, it's those same people that burn people for being witches. So I don't really trust them.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I'm
exactly.
saying? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. It's
you're gonna
been a
string some
difficult
people up and
journey, and
burn them.
yeah, I like this stuff. It, I'm pretty much evidence based. It's just like you guys really are making me think. You know,
Yeah, I mean, and
so
that's kind of the whole purpose of the podcast. When I
yeah,
started it, it's not to bash religion. It's not
yeah.
even specifically dedicated to religion. It's just to ask
I'm not even
questions.
offended. I'm not offended at all. You know,
Yeah, and
this is
I
good
hope
stuff.
they
This is
haven't been
good stuff.
offensive. But it's just to make people think more in depth about what they believe
Hmm.
and why. And even if it strengthens your beliefs, that's great because then
Hmm.
you go away stronger than when you came on, and that's fine with me. The purpose of the show isn't to deconstruct people. The purpose of the show is to
Yeah.
have a debatable or a controversial topic that we can talk about. God is one of those things.
Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely making me think, and yeah, it's been interesting. Yeah, there's really no evidence to believe in Jesus. And I
I
actually
mean,
have
I think
different books. I don't know if you guys have like what was it? I have one about how is it Rome created Christianity or something? Of different
yeah,
things like that. Like is it
yeah.
Rome? I don't know. It's a
You
good.
you know so
I don't know.
even with like the resurrection story, like there's so many epistemic problems
Yeah.
with that. So like for instance, like when let's say you saw the resurrection yourself,
Hmm.
but how do you know that it was just some sort of a trick?
Hmm.
Like something that you just like it wasn't a miracle, it was just a trick, and you just haven't figured out how he did it.
Hmm.
Right, like I've seen the video of this guy. He supposedly made a elephant disappear. I mean, it was wild, right? And so, how do you know it wasn't something like that?
Hmm.
And then even if you grant that he was definitely dead, and he rose from the
Hmm.
grave. How do you know that what he's saying is true? Like he says he's God. That it doesn't
Yeah.
follow that just because someone rose from the dead, it doesn't automatically mean that they're God. I mean, like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just kind of a leap. Like, are you saying only gods can do that? If so, how do you know? I mean,
Yeah. I don't know.
right. There's just so many things. And then if
Yeah.
you grant that he's a god, how do you know that he's always truth fulfilling? How do you know he's in line? I mean, it's a
Yeah.
bunch of non sequiturs. It's these things. It's unsubstantiated claims
Hmm.
that even if we knew they were true, what prove the conclusion that people are drawing from them. So
Yeah. It's interesting. Definitely is. Yeah, I've learned there was I think it's 200 years before Christ. There was supposedly some other Messiah figure
mhm.
and stuff like that, and the only seeing all this reading.
Besides, I think your mic's muted. I don't know what you said, but
I was just gonna say there have been messiahs throughout time memorial, man. Like it's just been a thing of culture. You see, time and time again throughout like fiction and throughout actual history where you have this ex machina character that comes through and saves the day, and then it gets glorified, and then sometimes it even goes to the level of like deity. If you read anything about like Alexander the Great, you'll recognize a lot of people like praised him so much for his ability to conquer and his skills at war that they essentially deified him. And that became like a literal thing. Alexander the Great supposedly fought a basilisk with a mirrored shield and killed it. But basilisks don't exist. It's just a story that we made up to prove that Alexander the Great was so good that he could figure out even how to kill a mythological creature, right? So like stuff like that happens all the time. Like it's just the Messiah complex happens over and over again. In fact, you could even take like the story of Moses coming into Egypt as a Messiah complex story, right? You have the Egyptians being enslaved, or sorry, the Egyptians enslaving the Hebrews. Then you have Moses coming in as the Messiah, the deliverer. He goes before the Pharaoh, orders him to let his people go. The Hebrews go free, right? That is an iconic literary Messiah. That is how you would define the story of Moses. Like, he is the Messiah in that story. It is a story about a Messiah. So it's not uncommon for that to happen. It happened in Egyptian culture. It's happened in every culture. And almost, like, there's tons and tons of literature throughout, from historic text to the Bible to comic books. It's just like Superman is the classic Messiah of comic books. Like, came forward, represented that what was good, super powerful, super strong, always saves the day. Great. That's a Messiah in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like I thought about this before, like Noah's Ark, I kind of debunked. It's like I guess they're having like thousands or millions of animals or something. Like, where do the animals go to the bathroom? Like, who fed them?
Right.
Like,
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of goofy stuff like that. Even when you let them go, right?
yeah,
So, like, what happens then? What does a lion eat? He eats
Yeah.
a zebra. He just eats one. No more zebra, right?
yeah.
Isn't that now what? Like, it's a lot of stuff. It just really doesn't make any sense.
And then if you even and then
read
if
the
you look
Epic
at
of
even the story of
Gilgamesh?
Lot, you know, they were so righteous. They were so righteous. Him and his two daughters and wife. God destroyed the city. That when they went back in it, his two daughters wanted to have kids, so they got their father drunk.
That's
right?
a bizarre story. And also where it's located, isn't that strange? It's in the middle of the story of Joseph. It's really weird. I think it's Genesis 38. Were you talking about that? They get his father.
I think it's
father
Genesis
drunk?
19.
Yeah, but it's odd. Like, it's a story about Joseph, and then it breaks, and then it tells you this X-rated weird story, and then it goes back to Joseph. It's very odd. Like, it's just something. As a child, when I was reading this, I was just like, "What's this about?" It's kind of goofy.
It's kind of yeah, and they had sex with their father twice, got pregnant, and when you really think about this, like I worked in corporations and seen all the not anymore the corruption and arbitration agreements where all the power and everything they do and just crazy stuff, right? And control and fear. And it kind of reminds me of, like, I guess the point I'm getting to is like it's all man stuff. Man, if there's a all powerful God that, let's say, now I'm probably sounding like an atheist, right? That created everything and did everything. Why would these funny stories, like, he would do it that way? Like, incest is supposed to be a sin. So after he destroyed the whole city, because there were a bunch of sinners and homosexuals, I don't believe that. Like, why would he spare Lot, who's supposedly righteous? Like, there's a couple of things wrong. It's incest. He sinned. Like, and even Noah got drunk when he got out the boat, and like,
yeah,
there's just so much crazy
that
stuff
story
that I don't
is
think.
really, really strange. You think the Lot one is bad? Like, if you look into the history of the story of Noah, supposedly when he got back, he got drunk on some wine, and then his sons raped him.
yeah. Some of the story is he says, like, and when Noah realized what his son had done to him,
Yep.
because he saw his nakedness. Because Noah was drunk naked, and then Ham did something to him while he was naked and drunk. I don't know. That's kind of weird, bro. Whatever it is, other than putting a blanket over him, that's
And it would be sin. And then you have these crusades saying that
Yeah.
God hates sin, God is going to punish sin, and then it gets so crazy.
I like just to go back here before we end.
Yeah.
You know, because we were talking about the community that you was getting. You know, you wouldn't necessarily lose that, right? I mean, why would you? So like the church you go to, and is it you said it's not a Universalist church, it's a Catholic church, you say?
Yeah, I only went like 3 times, and I don't know how
Okay.
much more I'm gonna go.
Gotcha. So is there any community you get from the Universal Life Church?
I haven't found one really too much in our area yet.
Yeah,
Well,
supposedly Ian McKellen's in the Universal Life Church.
Yeah.
So you should talk to that dude. Magneto was cool.
What do you say, Zod?
Magneto was cool.
Well, I was gonna say, I was like the community, the benefits that you would get, you don't have to keep those beliefs to keep the community, you know?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so if that's why you're holding on to it, I'd encourage you to let go. You know, and honestly, in any sort of community that would reject you for the simple fact of not believing unverified claims, that sounds kind of like a cult, doesn't it? Yeah. It's weird, right? So maybe that's not something you'd value anyway. But I mean, I don't know the community that you said you have. So I mean, if they value you regardless, sounds like it's a really good group of people, and you're not going to lose anything by abandoning it. So
yeah, I don't
have a good reason to believe something.
I
believing
I haven't built any relationships yet there, so
gotcha. Okay.
So, yeah. Yeah, you guys really made me think.
Yeah, man. Yeah, bro. I wanted to appreciate you for coming on. We like to give the guest last word. So, for anything that you wanted to plug or wanted to say.
I have a podcast as well. It's a GAPA Freedom Community, and yeah, check it out. We have a bunch of guests coming on. We're doing religious trauma this Sunday. We're having 2 guests coming on. Then February 18th, and then starting next month, we're going to have the Agapa Freedom Community Deconstructor of the Month, and we're going to be doing that each month, interviewing a guest. So a lot of awesome interviews and people coming on, and all of these podcasts are awesome and educational. I listen to several podcasts while I'm working. I work as a trainer at a school, and it's been very helpful, very educational. And during my deconstruction process, as it became comforting, like something like this, could comfort others to say, yeah, I'm not alone. And there's people questioning. There's people who have gone through the same process as me, and doubt, and just keep listening to them. There's so many podcasts out there right now, and of those that left the faith, there's some people that still hold on to the faith, and to be honest, I still like listening to them sometimes too, as long as they're not preaching on hell, which they don't believe in a hell. So I did like listening to them. I don't know where I'm going to be after this, but yeah, it's good stuff. So I encourage you, whoever's watching this now, to just go on a bunch of podcasts and this one and learn some stuff.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we'll post the link to the episode in the description to this one. So if you want to see it, just click down below, and that'll be there in a few minutes.
Thank you.
So, guys, thanks for tuning in. And Facades, you want to say anything else?
Can you do announcements for next podcast?
Oh, next week we're gonna have a I forget his name. But
Bring it
we'll
up.
be streaming next Tuesday, 6 p.m. We're going to be talking about pantheism, evolution.
What exactly is God? Is the title you gave the
Yeah,
email.
yeah, yeah. I think that's what it is. So, I, bro, I had so much stuff going on today, so I don't want to get it wrong. But yes, we're going to be talking about what God is, what He's made of, and all that kind of stuff. So, I went back and forth with this guy in a Facebook chat and trying to get what we're going to talk about. But yeah,
I look forward to watching that.
yeah, man, appreciate it, bro.
We'll see you guys next week. Jarek, thank you guys. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate you having
You're
a discussion
welcome.
with
Of
us,
course.
and hope you enjoyed it and leave with some thoughts to continue
I
thinking
did.
about. If you're running any questions, feel free to email us. If you guys in the comments or chat have any questions, feel free to shoot us an email. If you want to come on the show, you know where to reach us. We'll see you guys next week.